also in your affidavit, you include a text thread between Mr. Wooney Lee and Mr. Williams, correct?
Correct.
And as part of this text thread, you draw the judge's attention to a specific line, correct?
I included that amongst other things in the affidavit, yes.
Well, there's one particular line that you put in a bigger font, and you also circled it, or it's circled, correct?
It's circled, yes.
Okay. And you circled it to draw attention to it, correct?
To what I was referring to, yes.
Yes. And the line that you circled to draw attention to was YSL rule the world, kid, 24M on an N head, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you wanted to highlight that passage said by Mr. Williams in the text thread, correct?
Correct.
You wanted to highlight that for the judge?
Amongst other posts, yes.
Okay. What was he referring to? Why did you feel it important to highlight 24M on an N's head to the judge?
Well, he's referring to YSL ruling the world
Yeah.
as an organization, and it could be a play on words or a play on things that have happened, saying 24M on a racial expletive head.
Okay, 24M on a racial expletive head. It sounds like Mr. Williams had money on someone's head.
It could be taken that way, yes.
It could be taken that way, and you highlighted it and circled it for the judge, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you believe that too. You wouldn't have misled the judge about what was being discussed, would you? You believed that to be a threat, didn't you?
I didn't say it was a threat. It's saying that he's willing to, that's how they talk. They'll talk about, they have the ability to put money on people's heads.
Okay. Mr. Kokomo, could you please publish Jeffery Williams 3 and 4, is that correct?
Jeffery Williams 3, as well as Jeffery Williams 3A.
Okay. Could you please publish Jeffery Williams 3? Oh, before you do that, in this thread that you highlighted in your affidavit to the judge, this thread between Wooney Lee and Mr. Williams took place on February 7th, 2021?
Correct.
You just started over, Mr. Kokomo, with volume. All right.
Yes. They can put 24M on the front of their head. Y'all young hoes get in line. Slime rule the world. Believe it. Y'all niggas out this motherfucker spending 24 million on their heads. They can put 24M on the front of their head. Y'all young hoes get in line.
Okay. And could you please publish Jeffery Williams 3A? You see, what's displayed is Jeffery Williams 3A?
I do.
Okay, and it's a reaction, Jeffery Williams reacting after Lil Uzi Vert put a $24 million diamond into his head.
Correct.
Okay. Did you know about Lil Uzi Vert and the $24 million diamond and that reference when you filled out this affidavit?
I did not, but I would still stand by what I put in the affidavit.
Okay, so you're telling me right now, on a sworn statement to a judge with knowledge that Lil Uzi Vert just got a $24 million diamond put into his head, the days before Mr. Williams typed that, you would still put that quote, YSL ruled the world, 24 million on an N head in that affidavit?
Objection. They compounded made a mischaracterization of what the witness just said.
Overruled.
I did not have knowledge of Lil Uzi Vert getting a diamond in his head.
Okay, so all right, so let me ask that last question again. Instead of saying I would do it again, if you had knowledge that Lil Uzi Vert just got $24 million diamond in his head and that Mr. Williams was referring to that, would you still have put that in the affidavit?
Yes.
To mislead the judge?
Not misleading. May I explain?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm saying is this social media direct message is different than what you see on here. Lil Uzi Vert, I don't remember, is a member of YSL, so I think it might be a new, like a term they're going to coin. Like wipe his nose, things of that nature. So 24 on somebody's head might be a new thing that they're going to go with. He's saying YSL rules the world. As the leader, he can make that assertion.
You're doing a lot of explaining. Did you do any of that explaining in your sworn affidavit to the judge?
The sworn affidavit reads, Jeffery Williams brags that YSL rules the world and has $24 million.
Okay. And clearly, when you put highlighted and circled 24M on a N's head, you're sending a message to that judge, are you not? Let's be real.
I'm referring to my words that I wrote say, Jeffery Williams brags that YSL rules the world and has $24 million.
All right, and just so we're clear, as we sit here today, as someone, a law enforcement officer, even with knowledge of this, you would still put that in front of the judge?
There are different interpretations to everything as we've seen throughout this whole trial.
Yeah, I agree. Can we make our determinations, or are you going to make the determinations for us?
Objection. Arguments is sustained.
Do you think maybe you misinterpreted what was said by Mr. Williams? Is that a possibility?
I think it differs from what was presented on the internet and between direct messages, as we've seen.
So your answer is no. Your interpretation is perfect, pristine.
My interpretation was YSL rules the world and they have $24 million. That's what I wrote in my words in the affidavit. I didn't say Mr. Williams has $24 million on YF and Lucci's head. I didn't say that. I said YSL rules. He claims that YSL rules the world and has $24 million.
Now, you didn't say it. You just put in a bigger font and circled it for the judge, right? Right?
It wasn't a bigger font. That's how the message reads. It's the same font as the date and time, the same size as the date and time as the name, the Instagram handle.
In the circle?
It's circled, correct.
Let's talk about you, Ms. Knight. Could you pull up 227 VV? You indicated that. Now, this is from a video.
Correct.
With Mr. Nichols.
Correct.
Rolling a blunt.
Correct.
Okay. And then there's other individuals there, correct? There's other individuals in the room?
Correct.
Okay. And then it's on Mr. Stillwell's phone, so you're presuming that Mr. Stillwell was filming the video?
It was filmed from his device. So
Right,
yes.
right. Okay. So yesterday, you made a claim that a gun, well, what did you say? A gun is, I don't want to jumble your words. What are you claiming about the guns on this table?
A gun is what?
You identified or thought a gun was consistent with something?
It could be consistent with a Glock 27.
Could be consistent.
Correct.
Okay. And which gun is this?
The one towards the back right here.
Okay. Could be consistent with a Glock 27. All right. It could also, well, first of all, are you a firearms expert?
I'm not.
Okay. You're just someone who's owned a Glock before.
Several, yes.
Okay. And before yesterday, had you ever made the claim that, oh, I reviewed this video and this appears to be a Glock 27?
That was my first time testifying yesterday, so where else would I make?
What about reports? Did you ever write a report and said, I reviewed this is very important. I reviewed this video that was in Mr. Stillwell's phone, and I believe that that could be consistent with a Glock 27.
Well, while reviewing the evidence in preparation for trial, when I took a better look at this video and found it, it was probably 2 or 3 days before I testified, and that's when I first had to really research through and look at photos and kind of isolate what kind of gun that was.
So the answer is no, you didn't write a report.
No.
Okay, and certainly the first time saying it to me or anyone on this side was yesterday in court.
Correct.
Okay. You say it looks like it could be consistent, or it could be consistent with a Glock 27 based on the shape of the bottom of the grip. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. It could also be consistent with a Springfield firearm, correct?
I'm not familiar with a Springfield, but from how the magazine looks, also it could be consistent with a Glock.
Okay. It could also be consistent with a Sig Sauer. Could also be consistent with a Smith & Wesson, correct?
I'm familiar with a Glock.
Right, because you're not a firearms expert.
I
You're
never-
only familiar with these Glocks.
I never claimed to be, Mr. Schardt.
Okay, well, you start identifying guns in court, kind of making yourself an expert. But you're not an expert, are you?
I'm not.
Okay. And you don't even know, whatever this gun is, if Mr. Stillwell left with that gun or didn't leave with that gun. You don't know if anyone left with that gun. You don't know whose gun that is.
Correct, but we don't know that they didn't.
Okay. Great. Let me ask you this about your Glock 27 that you say this looks consistent with. When you shoot your Glock 27, does it expel shell casings?
I don't own a Glock 27. When I was purchasing a subcompact Glock, I was going back and forth between the 27 and the 43. I prefer to shoot a 9mm, so I went with the 43.
So you don't even own a Glock 27?
I just said when I was researching the two, handling the two at the gun dealer.
So now you don't own a Glock 27. You were researching it, which means you were handling the gun at the gun dealer. That's your experience with the Glock 27.
I never asserted that I owned one. I've seen one. I've handled one. I can recognize one.
So you've handled one at a gun dealer, and that's what you're basing the identification on.
I've recovered a good bit of guns in my
Okay.
career. I know what they look like.
All right, let me ask you this. Since you know about guns, at least through your career, Glock 27s, when you shoot them, do they expel shell casings?
Yes.
Okay, Glock 27s, when you shoot them, do they make a loud bang?
Yes.
When you shoot a Glock 27, does it create a muzzle flash?
I should. I mean, when you
Okay.
shoot it, like during the day, you wouldn't see it, or sometimes at night you can see it, but
Okay, and when you shoot a Glock 27, does it emit gunshot residue?
if it's inside of a contained area, yes, it would.
Okay.